Put on for the squad. We go in. Do it for the God. If I go, then I'm going hard. Boy, you know me. Hard for the mob. Fill up and get up and go. Fill up to pick up and roll. You gon' get this word. Get lit up and hit up for show.
Thank you for accepting this interview. I know it's been a very difficult time for you. You had just lost your soulmate, and I'm glad that you're willing to talk about your experiences.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
How did you guys meet?
Okay, wow. This is an interesting way to put things in perspective, because from a natural perspective, I met her in 2002. I met her in 2002, and she was attending Cal State Dominguez in Carson, and I was at the school, at the college, and I was in a group called The Brothers. It was a gospel group we had just put together, and one of my still brothers, Will Hayward, was a part of the group, and he was present. And so rehearsal was over. I ended up outside, and we just ended up talking outside, and I saw, it was night, about 7:30, and I saw this young lady pass by us, and I told the brother, I'm like, hey, hold up. And so I went over to her, and I approached her. I said, hey, how you doing? What's your name? And she said, my name is Shauntee. And we were standing literally face to face, and I said, wow, you have beautiful eyes. And she smiled, and I asked her if she had, a man, and she said, yes, she did. But that didn't, I was like, well, I'm still a gentleman. I'm like, it's kind of late for you to be walking out here by yourself. I'm like, where are you going? She was like, well, I got a night class. I said, I'm going to walk you. I said, give me your books. So I carried her books, and I took her to class. And that was the last time that I seen her, in the year 2002. And so, fast forward to 2005, I seen her again, but I didn't know it was her. And we ended up singing praise and worship. I was the praise and worship leader for that year, and she was singing background for me. And but we didn't interact. It was like we met each other for the first time, and so we didn't interact. And after the service was over, it was over. And then in 2007, I met her again, but this time I knew it was from the service that we had, because she sung background for me. And we began to talk, and our friendship turned into a relationship, and then marriage. And the funny thing about that is that we just thought we met each other in 2005. But she always had this idea that she's seen me before. And I would be like, look, we related. They always say black people related. And she used to hate when I say that. I'm like, we cousins. She couldn't stand it. She didn't like me saying that. So But it was all joke and fun because I'm like, hey, I already talked about this. You know, I I came up to the school, because she would always ask me, you know, have you ever been to Dominguez? I'm like, yeah, I came up there and sung with the brothers. We had rehearsal a couple of times. But she would always ask me throughout the year. I feel like I've seen you somewhere before. And so, you know, recently, we was asked how did we meet last year, and or a year about almost about a year and a half to 2 years. We were asked how did we meet, and we both said praise and worship, singing praise and worship. And then she went again. It looked like I said, but it just seemed like I sang this one before. I'm like, babe, we keep talking about the same thing. I'm like, we, you know, I was at Dominguez one time. She asked me if I saw, if I was there. I was like, I was at Dominguez, and I had rehearsal, and she asked me a question she never asked me before. After she always insinuated that she's seen me before. She asked me, "Were you with anybody short?" Now everybody know there's no pun of Will. Everybody know Will Short. That's my boy. But she asked me. She was like, "Were you with somebody who was short?" I was like, "Yeah, you know Will." She was like, "Will, yeah, he was there. I remember him." Then she said, "You don't remember coming up to me and asking me my name and then telling me that I had beautiful eyes?" And it struck me because I was like, wait a minute, that was you? Now, this is 2002. Mind you, we believed all this time, that we had met in 2005 singing praise and worship. But she remembered, it came back to her memory after all those years of being together and married that I had approached her at that time. And even though she had someone, she was in my path to be mine. I was in her path to be hers. And, I just thought it was the greatest love story. And after she figured it out and I was, informed by it, it was like we just fell in love all over again. We started talking about that day almost every week and how I approached her. And I began to love on her more. She began to love on me more. And we just never thought that we would be part of a real love story that would be in our lifetime. And I just thought it was just a beautiful thing that I approached her in because I felt she was something special that made me stop from talking to my boys to approach her, to the point to where I came in contact with her again and fell in love. We fell in love. Now, mind you, now watch this. Here's the other part I want to make mention of. Even though we felt like we met in 2005, and we did. We felt like that was the beginning of God ordaining, or setting us up to be together. I believe 2002, we believe 2002 at that moment was the setup for 2007, where we actually interacted with each other, even though 2005, we, in the ministry, we sung together. But it was we felt it was setting us up for 2007. And in 2008, we ended up getting married. But the interesting thing I want to bring out is that throughout our marriage, we showed each other's accomplishments. And I had a lot of, write-ups in the papers and the magazines, and I had a lot of letters that I still have from college recruits. handwritten letters, might I add, not just generated letters. But because there is a difference, I just want to throw that out there. Yeah. But anyway, I would show her my accomplishments, and I came across a clip. It was from the press telegram, and she looked at the clip. She was like, "I've seen this before." I was like, "Really?" She was like, "Yeah," and she really didn't like right away connect the dots. But after I show her that particular article of me in the newspaper and the press telegram, she was like, "I remember my dad telling me or showing me this article about this guy playing football, and this looked like it." And so she just started pressing on it. She was like, "You know what? My dad, who was in the football, well, because he was in the football, I started getting into football because he did. And I remember him coming to me and saying, 'Come here.' He said, you see this kid right here? He gonna be somebody one day." This was when I was in high school. I'm 16, 17. We're 6 years apart. And her dad, reading the newspaper, never met me. And I never met him. His daughter never seen me, and I never seen her. She's 11 at the time. And her dad is looking in the newspaper at me, showing me to her and telling her that this kid is going to be something special one day. All the while, God was like connecting the dots that there was going to be a future between that family and my family. And I just thought that was fascinating. And I just believe when I found that out, I'm like, you was really my soulmate. We're in two different age groups. I'm 16, she's 11, but her dad is telling her about me. And we've never met before. And God brought it full circle to where we end up coming across each other the first time in 2002. And I thought that was very special. And it's still special to me.
What was a difficult part that you guys had in your marriage, or what was a difficult moment that you may have had in your marriage, and how did you overcome it?
I know the cliche-ish response is, marriages having ups and downs. But I'm gonna go. I think I can go a little deeper with that question. If I can be more transparent, I think the most difficult part of our marriage was trying to convince people that we belong together. We were not accepted by everybody. It was a great challenge. It's still kind of difficult to even think and talk about it, but I'm glad I'm talking about it because I never have until this interview. And I didn't know that this was going to be a question, but because she's gone, I feel like I need to set the record straight. We had some issues with people who did not accept us. And I'm talking about people who we fellowship with in the church, who say they love God, and who say that they believe in love and believe in marriage, but it was a hard time. It was so hard that where we just like for 2 years we just stayed away from people, and we end up finding ourselves in ministry together because we wanted to remain in church, but it drove us. We spent so much time trying to convince people that we belong together versus spending all that time building each other up, loving on each other. And in that process, we had 2 kids, and that was challenging. And it was so bad, and she got the flack and I got flack. It was even, and still to this day, people still have a problem with the decision that God made. This was a God thing for us. This was something that God, when I talk about the history and how it happened, from the father, which is my father-in-law, telling his 11-year-old daughter about me in the paper, and I ended up coming across her in 2002, not even knowing that conversation even took place. And I approached her, and then I ended up seeing her in 2005, and then messed around and seeing her again in 2007 and 2008 happened. You can't tell me that it wasn't God. So a lot of people who were supposed to be leaders got it wrong. They got it wrong. And they would never man up a woman up to it. And I'm okay with that. I forgive them. She forgave him. We ended up, after a while, working things out, becoming stronger on both sides of the family. And we were accepted, but the church has always hands-on been involved in people's lives too strong when it came to relationships and marriages, that they destroyed people's lives who couldn't handle it. I was just thankful to God that we were strong enough to endure it. And, and I don't regret it, because like I said, it helped us build a strong bond. That's why we did what we did. We rolled like we rolled. When there was no family, we had to build one. And that's what we did with our 5 children. And ourselves. We became builders. And but it was so bad, she would tell me the stories and the plots and the schemes just to keep us away. There was one incident, I'm gonna say there's one incident where my name was placed in the Bible. And the scripture that it was associated with wasn't a scripture that would be a blessing to my life. And when she told me, it hurt me. Because those that know me know I'm a family man. And I ended up having to forgive. And, let it go. That was some difficult moments in our life, because every marriage wants their family to accept them. Every couple want to be loved by the family when they are in love. And when you don't get that, man, it's crushing. To the point to where you have to survive days of suffocation and survive days of tears and anger. So I would say that was the most difficult time of our marriage, trying to convince people we love that we belong together.
In marriages today, you don't always have, or you don't always hear that the husband and wife do everything together, but you and your wife, when she was here, you guys did everything together. You ate together, you watched TV together, you did a lot of fun things and important things together. Why is that?
I again, I think it pushed us to do that because of the unacceptance of our marriage or our relationship. Um, it pushed us to a place where we all we had. When the lyrics say it's just me against the world, it was us against the world, and we weren't finna lay down and die. We was going, because of the character and the makeup of who we were, it was like, okay, it hurt, but we gonna push. And we became a power couple behind it, in the world and in the kingdom of God. Can't nobody take that away. We are who we are. She is who she is, and I am who I am. And it's only because of God. And I'm glad He gave us the stamina to be able to build something together and to learn how to do things together and work together. I mean, we were in a business together, a company together. We fathered and mothered children together. We were married together. We churched together. We sang together. We vacationed together. There wasn't no separate, woman go do your thing and men go do my thing. No, we didn't. It was none of that. We did everything together. We planned together. We banked together. Let me tell you something about that. And I'm glad, you asked this question, because when I say we did everything together, we did everything together. When I'm in the beginning, in the first 6 months, I never forget, because this is something I cherish the most. One of the things I cherish the most in our marriage. When we met, we were both working. I had a company. I had just started it in 2005, so it was 2 years strong. But she was working, and within 6 months of our relationship, she ended up being laid off, and she went through a moment of depression, and I knew, because that was going to be my wife, that I had to act upon what was trying to keep her discouraged. And we stayed in contact with each other. But during that process of her not working, I took care of her. We were living in separate houses, but I still took care of her. I made sure she was fed. I made sure she had money in her tank. She had a car. I made sure her phone bill was paid. While she wasn't working, I made sure that she, she had everything that she needed, and whatever it was that she needed, until she was able to get on her feet, and she had access to whatever I had access to. Now, fast forward into marriage. Once we got, married and we got our place, whatever I had was hers. The bank accounts, I made her authorized users. My credit cards, made her authorized user. The business account, cell phone account, I added her to the business account. So she didn't have to worry about nothing. And the money that was being brought in was accessible to her. That sharing everything together. And I never understood Like, if God make you one in marriage, why would he allow you to be separate in your finances? I think that's an oxymoron as married couples, because, you know, when it comes down to it, what's yours is yours. What's yours is hers, and what's hers is yours. And so I was never one to believe that. And I know many people like, nah, I can't share my money. This person's spending too much. You know, they don't know how to manage. Well, if you're the breadwinner and you know how to do it, then teach them. Don't just deny the person from having access to the blessings that God gave you. That's your partner. You're one. You're not just one in marriage and in the bed. You should be one in everything you do and everything you have. Here's how I saw it working. You know, most of the things were in my name. You know, credit cards, the cars, my credit was pretty good. I'm not saying her credit was pretty bad, but when we put our credit together, whether it was hers was lower and mine was higher, and you know that determined the car payment monthly. Hey, I'm like, so be it. I want you to be on this loan. I don't want to be on this loan by myself. I'm telling the car dealership, put her on there. Well, it can offset. Okay, so what? Because in my mind, I'm like, I'm going to help her, and we're going to help each other. When you make car notes and it's in your name together, when you allow your spouse to be an authorized user on your account, when you pay your monthly bill on time and you pay your balances down, that brings both your credit scores up. And so now you're dealing with financial power together, which helps us be able to get whatever it is that the system has to offer for us to be greater financially. That's how I saw it. And it worked. And I don't regret it. She wasn't the best saver, but she grew to become the best business partner that made her look at money different and manage differently. And that's all people need. That's really all marriages need. So I recommend, man, do everything together. That's how we did it. And we were successful at it.
Express your thoughts on how you felt after her passing. How did it affect you?
How did it affect me? Well, it still has an effect. It does. It does. You know, I'm happy for her because she made it in. Something that we're all trying to do. Excuse me. It affected me to the point in the moment that my faith was crushed. I didn't lose it. It was just crushed. Because I seen God use me. He used me to heal the sick. He used me to go to hospitals and pray. And people came out all right. He used me to help people come through their most difficult challenges through prayer. And I felt like when God didn't do that for her, when I prayed for her to come back, and she didn't, it crushed my faith. It crushed my faith. So, I'm not affected by the crushing of my faith as I was the days after her passing. Nor am I crushed at all. But I do still feel the effects of her passing, even in this moment. Because there are people that I know wasn't even living right, ain't even living right. And here it is, this woman of God is giving all she has to the kingdom, to community, to her family at a young age. And those who ain't even caring about how God see them in the earth doing their own thing, still living. I question God about that. My God, you could have took a whole lot of people except for the one doing work for you. That's how I felt. Like, why you ain't taking them? Why you let them stay here? And I remember God answered me. He said, because I'm giving them time. I'm giving them time. Shauntee was ready. They're not. I'm giving them time to turn. And I throw my hands up and I don't ask the question that I felt rightfully so that I needed to ask God. And for people that don't feel like you can ask God questions, you're wrong. They're wrong. You can ask God questions. Questions is a fundamental of any language. It is the fundamental of understanding, comprehending. If you don't understand what God is doing, and you talking about you can't ask God questions, then you're going to remain confused. Because it's only in questions that God can answer and reveal things to you. Other than just sitting back, being silent, no say nothing. So I asked him and he revealed. And after he answered it, I have no other choice but to accept his answer, whether I like it or not.
So, like you said before, there were some naysayers that didn't approve or agree to you and your wife's relationship. After she had passed, what was the feedback that you might have gotten from the naysayers? Were they sorry for you, or did they just not even care?
Well, I've been real all the time. I gotta keep being for real. Because I need to express this. I mean, that's a good question. All of these questions are excellent. I actually, during this process, after she passed, I still had some issues with people. And these are people in the church. I'm not just talking about people who are outside the church. I'm talking about praise and worship leaders, ministers of music, folk that go to church playing instruments and singing God praises, but their heart is tarnished with hellish fragments of Satan's army. People who are looked upon as men and women of God are shrewd, insensitive, and they don't care. I had people pressing me in my time of grieving with my family, pressing so hard when I'm trying to become free from this pain, pressing me hard, wanting me to tell them how she died. Now I have been telling this story on the day she passed, how she died. And at the time, I'm like, okay, I've shared this story enough. I don't want to talk about it. I want to prepare for her celebration. But I have people asking me constantly, texting me, wanting to know how she died. And I was specific when I said, God took her home. There's nothing that can be changed to that. That's just the way God functions and operates. I really don't want to discuss this matter at this moment. Maybe some other time. And do you know, they were selfish enough to ask me over and over again what happened after I already told them I did not want to talk about it until I was ready. I have nothing to say to anybody who was not there for me or my family and who was only worried about how somebody passed. I ain't got nothing to say. And this is the part that angers me, because I know how God delivered me. I know what He delivered me from. I have nothing to say to those people. I have nothing to say.
Out of all of the memories that you and your wife shared, and I know that there were a lot of memories that were great and that were very special, but what do you think was one of the greatest memories of all that you will cherish forever?
Wow. I have so many. The greatest memory. Man, I have so many. It has to be one.
It can be more than one.
Wow. Okay, one of the greatest memories is the latest one, is where we learned together that I approached her at her school. And years later we found out. That is a beautiful memory. Because where I come from, you know, a girl who give a guy named man, you know, guys typically kind of disrespect them. Yeah. When they're rejected, not getting the number. I've never been one like that. I think that's just a person who ain't confident in themselves, man. She gotta do what she gotta do. She give you the number, she give you the number. But even though she said she had a guy, she was still interested. And I believe it wasn't because she was someone who wasn't trying to be faithful. There was a connection that God had. Maybe that was her way of escape for her to get out of what she was in so that we could be together earlier in 2002 instead of waiting all the way to 2007. That's just my opinion. But God knows how to bring things back full circle. The other thing is our children. Every last one of our children has been an amazing experience, moment in our life. I was able to be there at all their births, except for Serenity. I was at the hospital, but we didn't want to take that shot. They forced everybody to take, like they had no rights. We were like, we ain't taking that shot. And because we refused the shot after they told us, oh, you can be in the room with her, but when we refused that shot, that COVID shot, it was like, oh, you gotta wait on the other side of the building. That was a moment that was very painful because I never missed a birth. But God got us through that. Another moment. Now this may seem a little bit odd to some people, but I want to tell you that this, when you as a couple make it through adversity, that's a moment you can never forget. We had COVID at the same time. We were suffering in our home. We didn't take no shots. This was in 2020. 2021. We both caught COVID. We were in our bed. And I'm going to tell you, we were dying. I was dying. She was dying. And all I kept following was how to keep staying hydrated, what to eat, what to do. Everything that God gave me to do, it worked. And I remember staying in our room, and our kids took care of us, our older kids. They would make us our food. They would leave it at the door. We would get up and get it because we didn't want them to be around us. And we supported each other during that time of laying in our bed. And I remember they said that a sign of overcoming COVID is after 2 weeks. When it got to that 14th day, my God, we felt our strength coming back. My feet was black. I was literally a dead man walking. My life was turning over. But I trusted God, and I remember we walked downstairs together in the room by ourselves, sitting on the couch together. And I remember singing God praises. And I remember praying. And the song that God gave me was Byron Cage. This is the air I breathe. This is the air I breathe. And I began to sing that the air that I breathe is not the natural air, but it is the air of the Holy Spirit. And it began to fill our lungs. And I began to pray over our lungs. And I began to worship. She began to worship. And we saw God turning it for us. Singing, this is the air I breathe. Your holy presence live in us. And we begin to say, God, we're desperate for you. And let me tell you, God brought us out of that. We accomplished a death sentence. We overcame a death sentence by accomplishing life, singing life through ourselves. And so that's a moment that I would cherish. Because a lot of people, they don't have the, and this is due to the faith. God always worked us through the faith. He always showed himself strong in our lives through us ministering to people and ministering to ourselves. He always made a way. It was just this time, it was just his way. And I had to accept it.
Thank you for your time with us.
Absolutely.
Thank you for accepting this interview again. And thank you for showing your strength and your willingness to do this interview.
I appreciate it. I thank you so much. And I hope that those who hear this interview would be inspired by a great love story. Be inspired by a couple who love God. Be inspired by a couple who shared everything and overcame adversity when we were not accepted, but God brought it full circle to allow our family what we desired, to be family beyond our own household. And I hope someone is inspired by being sensitive to people as well during difficult times, and not be selfish and just want to know what you want to know or what they want to know, because that's just how you feel. I hope somebody who listens to this is careful on how they treat people and handle people. Because in those moments, things like that could push people who are weak away, and the blood would be required unto those who push them away hands. But I'm thankful to God that He's given me a unique kind of strength, a strength that me and my wife had, that will transcend through my children and children's children. Because in a time like this, we're a people called to a new and different dimension. We're a different army than those before us. And we're going to set the record straight on all levels.
G-O-N, put on for the squad. We go in, do it for the God. If I go, then I'm going hard. Boy, you know me, hard for the mob.